Hi guys, welcome to season 1, episode 2 of the UK Cowboys TV little Instagram show, or you might be watching us on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, anywhere, wherever you are, welcome. I am hosting you tonight, and my name is Lauren, if you don't already know, and I'm joined by the delectable trio of Brian, Rich, and Jeff. How's it going, guys? All good?
All good, yeah.
All good.
Good.
Well, really, let's be honest, there's only one place to start our chat this week, and it's a story that's probably dominated us all off-season with what's going to happen, and it has happened, and Zeke is currently holding out on a new contract.
Yes.
So, Cowboys in camp. Zeke did not board the plane. He did not make his own way there, and he's currently in, where is it, Cabo?
Cabo. Yeah, it's all right for some.
Yeah, which obviously there was previous stories a few years back with Romo and Witten went there before a game, had a little party, but it does seem that Zeke is working out. Reports today from Jane Slater suggest that the Cowboys and Zeke aren't even close on a deal. The Cowboys don't agree with the Gurley contract, and so aren't willing to play ball on that. What do we think? Where are we at? What's going to happen? Someone tell me.
Who's got the balls to predict this?
Oh.
I mean, Rich, you were captain Zeke. You were all in on Zeke when we drafted him.
Yes, I was. I'm not massively worried, which sounds a bit strange, but coming from a couple of angles, I don't see him missing paychecks. Ultimately, I don't see him missing a game check at all. I think sitting out the start of camp is one thing. Sitting out sort of the dress rehearsal games is another thing, and sitting out an actual game check is a different thing. Plus, a very nice thing I saw earlier on, just before we came on, I think it came out on ESPN, that apparently, due to Zeke's holdout, now it's reached 6 days, technically the Cowboys can come after a portion of his prorated signing bonus, which at the minute is a little more than 613,000. After that, it's additional 1% for each day he misses, up to a maximum of 25%, which equals out at just over $1 million. And that's on top of his charges he's getting for not being there. Yep. So he's losing money, even though you got to spend money to make money, is the saying. That's a lot of money to lose, even for the potential contract he could get. I don't see him missing a game check. I get the whole situation of he's a running back, he's got to get his money soon, but I think he's been a bit misinformed. I think his agent is not as up to scratch on the CBA currently, the one that we have now that we're coming to the end of. I think this is a year too early. I think Zeke hasn't been as mindful of the team's needs and the realism of the situation as much as he could be, but I'm not massively worried. I don't think he's going to miss a paycheck. I think before too long, he'll have a conversation with someone like Stephen Jones, and he'll be sorted one way or the other. Either they'll come to a deal, or there'll be a situation of, come here and we'll have serious conversations throughout camp and the season. And obviously he'll be back there, and then he'll be practicing and all the rest of it. But I'm not massively worried, and neither is Dave Campo, funnily enough. Yeah. He really isn't fussed either which way.
I mean, I'm pretty much in the same camp as you. It doesn't stress me out whatsoever. I think he wants to be a Cowboy. He wants to be paid, but I think they'll come together. How many times has Jerry played this hard ball before? I think it's it's just part of the dance now that happens. Perhaps what's made me smile, chuckle, laugh, fans calling for Zeke to be traded.
Unbelievable.
Brian, Joe, which one of you wants to run with that one for us?
I'm out.
John, Brian, do you want to take the trade one?
Yeah, I'll take that. Look, we brought back Alfred Morris. We brought in Mike Weber. We brought in Tony Pollard. There's no way we're trading for anyone. The talks of, I think, was it Isaiah Crowell was mentioned?
Yeah.
Come on, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not happening. We're not trading for anyone, and there's no way we're going to trade away the guy who we've effectively built our team around. You know, like we've invested heavily in our O-line. We've gotten monsters everywhere on that line to open the gaps for Zeke. We're not going to fucking trade him away. No way. It's not happening. And just as an add-on, like, I mean, David Hellman was writing about it over the weekend. Look, he's not there at the minute. That's great. I mean, he's less likely to get injured. And the last time he was in Cabo, the guy came back absolutely shredded.
Yeah.
So let's hope it's the same outcome this time.
Yeah.
I think people need to realise or remember the situation we had back just after DeMarco Murray went, and there was the whole running back by comedian situation, and everyone was like, "Oh, you can put anyone behind that line," and that was very much proved to be complete and utter BS, for a better way of saying it. So, there is a big difference between having just anyone behind that line and having a very, very good tier 1 running back and having the best one in the league, arguably. He does make this team go.
Yeah, I'd second that, Rich. I mean, we're a run-first team. I mean, that's the crux of it. We've got possibly the best or one of the top 3 running backs in the league. Jerry's all about that glitz, glamour. We're not going to sign him. It's very much, for me, a poker game. Jerry's not come out and said Zeke's not worth that money. We're not going to pay it. He's just said the odd kind of lingering thing to kind of play his poker hand. Zeke's doing the holdout. It's just standard operating procedure now, I think, in the NFL with just to how things go. And I think if the league don't get a grip on it, it's very much going to spiral out of control, this whole holding out on camps, and it could become quite a thorn in the league side longer term. But for me, not worried in the slightest.
How much do you think this is people trying to get in early before the new CBA?
Yeah, could possibly be that. I mean, you've got Melvin Gordon holding out, haven't you, for the Chargers? Which is, you know, if we think Zeke's been misinformed, then, you know, what about the advice Gordon's getting when, you know, they have a very good team behind him at the Chargers? You know, they're quite happy. Even Rivers has come out and said, hey, we've got other guys that can play there.
And didn't Austin Eckler go for an awful lot of yards last year as well?
Yeah, and I think
when Gordon was down injured.
Gordon missed 4 games, and I think, don't quote me on it, but I think they won all 4. So
Believe.
Yeah.
And who's to say that we don't have a situation like the Steelers and have one of our rookies come through a bit like James Conner and have a situation like that? I mean, I know it's kind of like wishful thinking, but it is a risk doing the holding out, isn't it? And I don't think Zeke can hold, like you're saying, Rich, for longer term because of the money. Because what was it? Up to 3 years he could be sitting if we don't go. Is that right?
Ultimately. I mean, I can't remember what happens with regards to his contract and if he doesn't play with regards to the extra options. I think if he doesn't play, it's something like a year gets added on. Effectively, if he doesn't report basically and play, he doesn't get that year accrued to his contract. So if he doesn't play year 4, he still has to play year 4. I think. I'm not entirely sure. Brian would probably be the better person to speak to with that.
That does sound accurate. Like, I mean, if he chooses to sit out next year, he still effectively has that 4th and 5th year on his contract. Cool. We can still franchise tag him if we want, you know. So he still has a lot of years left at the Cowboys.
That was the thing I was wondering today, and I put that in the group chat earlier because everything's gone so far has been very your prototypical sort of negotiation. They want this, we want that. They're saying this, they're saying that, and it's been a very well mannered but pretty tit for tat standard sort of negotiation stuff. And then even down to the point where Jerry Jones says he has a contingency plan. I'm like, Jerry Jones would have a contingency plan. So I'm like, what is that? And just today I was like, would they be crazy enough to try and franchise him just to get him a fairly big wad of money in one go in 1 year just to get him there for this year? And then they can work through the season, but I don't see them agreeing to that.
No, I don't see that happening, Rich, because effectively, like, he's on great money. He was the 4th pick in his draft class, so I mean, on the CBA, like he's one of the highest paid players in his whole class. So he would have got a lot of money at the time when he signed his rookie deal. So, I think his hit is something like 7 to 9 million against cap this year. So, he's getting plenty. There's no reason to franchise tag him.
And do you part of our Jerry's reason maybe for not offering large volumes of money straight away is Zeke's off-field activities, especially what's just come out about the car accident and stuff like that. Do you think he's using that as a bit of a card in his hand to try and keep the cost down a little bit?
I would say that is definitely a part of the plan. There's not been a season with Zeke where we haven't had something that's happened off the field. The first year was the ex-girlfriend that dragged into the second year. We've had the car accident. We've had the incident this off season where, whether he squared up to a bouncer or said something, so maybe they're just trying to say, look, get your act cleaned up. We don't want to see these activities happening, and take it from there. It does give them a chip in the game, but not a huge one. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Jerry Jones didn't fight all of the whole ban, the suspension for Zeke with the girlfriend. He didn't fight all the way for Zeke with that, for him just to then not do anything with him or trade him away or let him sit and rot. But I think he'll he may not come out and say it, but he will be having that conversation with Zeke, I imagine, and saying we've backed you to the hill.
Yeah, it's also, he's got to be mindful, like I said before, he's not been very mindful of the team's position because, it's not just, whilst he wants to get his money and he's a running back and he needs to get it while he's young because of his shelf life, he needs to look at it from the team perspective as well. And I know this is a business and he's out for him ultimately, but if he wants to win a Super Bowl, which I'm going to assume he does, then he's got to look at it from a team perspective as well. And he also needs to look at that as well from the business side, from the negotiation standpoint. They've got Dak to sort. They've got Amari to sort. They've got everyone else. Byron is coming up. Lyle. There's lots and lots of other contracts that realistically this team needs to get done outside of the top two before you look at any sort of restructures. And then you've got Zeke as well, who, yes, is going to take up. They knew that they were going to have to pay Zeke a lot of money. They knew it was probably going to be in this region. I dare say they were probably expecting to have this conversation next year.
Yeah.
This year was hopefully going to be getting Dak, maybe Amari, maybe someone else sorted. Next year would probably be Zeke, and whichever out of those two wasn't sorted, get them done as well. Hopefully, maybe Lyle or Byron. But I think he's done it far too early. I think he's starting to potentially hurt this team. I think at the minute they're being very patient, but I don't know how long that's going to last. If we start getting towards the season and he's not practicing, we could see things start potentially ramping up just purely because people are getting pissed off organisation-wise.
Yeah. But talking of contracts, we've seen a big one today with Michael Thomas has signed his wide receiver deal. 5 years, $100 million. What's that mean for Amari?
Lots of money. Potentially quite a lot, really. His agent's been waiting a long time, pretty much for the market to be set. There's always the who bites first and who sort of sets the market. I think it's going to have a decent impact on him. To what extent, I don't know. I don't profess to be a contract expert, but yeah, it's going to have a big impact on him. I think it's definitely tweaked up the price a little bit. I think beforehand he was in a certain range. I think now, because of that, he's definitely going to be more towards the higher end of that range because of this deal, for sure.
Yeah, there was reports before we took Amari, wasn't there, that we went for Sammy Watkins and offered him $16 million for the year. Now, if we were offering that to Sammy Watkins, and we've now seen Michael Thomas get the top end of the, say, $20 million a year, we're probably going to be looking somewhere between that, I'm guessing, for Amari. Sound about right to you, Brian?
Yeah, it does. I'm expecting Amari's numbers to come in about 16 to 17.5 million. He's definitely worth it. Yeah. If Michael Thomas, who I consider maybe the top 3 wide receivers in the league.
Yeah.
I definitely think Amari is not very far below him, so you got to pay him.
Yeah.
And I'd happily pay it. Like, I mean, we saw the difference Cooper made when he came in. Like, Dak had that number 1 threat. He had a guy who could go the length of the field. He had a guy who could go across the middle. So pay it. You're not going to get a top 10 wide receiver for less than what Cooper's looking for.
Yeah, I think so. Another player that isn't a Cowboy, but we could possibly be looking at paying. Will McClay this week came out and said that the Cowboys are monitoring Eric Berry.
Yes.
I know we touched on this last week, but what did you make of it, Joe? Monitoring Eric Berry.
Brian's face.
Mystic Brian struck last week.
I wouldn't mind it as long as the money's right. For me, training practice, I know we're not fully into it yet, but both Woods and Heath got interceptions in training.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm quite happy with both of them. It is our weakest position, I do think, on the team. And to have that experience and that veteran kind of passing down to those 2 guys would be amazing. But again, with the players that we've got signed, Dak, Coops, Zeke, Collins, all of those ones, I think we need to really penny pinch and watch our budget as much as possible. So it has to be a team-friendly deal for us, I'm afraid. So, yeah, I don't want to pay the big bucks for it, but I think it'll be a smart move if we can.
Yeah. Oh, well, speaking of injuries, we have had the regular injury to my man, Sean Lee, already.
Okay.
I mean, if it wasn't for the fact I had a 4-month-old baby, I would be on the plane now out there with these healing hands.
I'm surprised you're not already there, Lars.
Yeah. Well,
in there in spirit.
If the baby had a passport, maybe. But, the Cowboys have said it's not serious. It's just a knee tweak for Lee. But
that's his speciality.
Well, But, it's another... there's a lot of people, ifs, buts and maybes over Lee now, but obviously I'm biased, so I'm probably not the best person to give an opinion on this, but I still think he can play a very significant role in the team. If nothing else, you ask Jalen Smith and LDE if they want Lee on the team, and I'm pretty sure we all know what they're going to say.
Yes, sir.
I mean, team player all over. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard about him travelling to camp. I'm sure it was all over the media everywhere. So he lives out there at the moment, and he flew all the way back to fly back to training with the team because he's that much of a team player, and saying that's how excited he gets about camp. And that's got to wear off on the other players. It's got to be an infectious thing. And I think very much he's probably playing that a little bit smart, knowing that he's now getting to the end of his career, maybe thinking about moving into the coaching element. And I think he's setting himself up quite smartly there.
Yeah, and I think he even came out, didn't he? And he said he doesn't care where or when he plays. He'd even just play on special teams if that was if that's what it meant. For him to play.
Yeah. If nothing else, he wins the award for the longest commute to work.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed. Any other observations we picked up from camp? I know, Rich, you were particularly excited to see Travis Frederick back on the field.
What do we think?
Back in pads, it's just like, a new player for us, isn't he?
He's looking okay. They've been very, very cautious with him.
Yeah.
Understandably, monitoring his workload and keeping him out of 1v1s. But he's going with it. He's looking okay. I hate saying it, but it's a day by day, and we got to just see how it goes.
Yeah. Garrett is right there.
He seems in the right frame of mind, and I don't think he's the kind of person that would put himself on the field if he didn't think he was ready. So, I mean, touch wood. We just got to see how it goes. But if, and I really hope it doesn't, but if it comes to it and he's not ready, people behind him are looking very, very good in terms of backing up. Not to that level, obviously, but the guys did a good job last season. Certain people putting on some weight, putting on some bulk, keeping it on, looking good. The whole thing in the grand scheme of things. There's a couple of other guys, quite a lot of guys actually, that are flashing. A lot of the wide receivers, which is quite easy to do, especially at the start of camp. But a lot of guys looking quite good at the minute.
Yeah. Any other flashpoints from anyone that they've seen throughout camp this week? Anything stood out?
For me, it's not necessarily a flashpoint, but Taco looked very kind of dejected and jaded after not performing well. He looked a bit like a child that just, when they play sports and they just like, I can't do it, I'm not going to try anymore, I can't be bothered to put any effort in. Seemed very much like that. I think he's completely on the bubble. And I think Joe Jackson may even beat him for a roster spot if he carries on going the way he is. His head just doesn't seem focused completely on it. So that was Taco for me. And Quinn was having a huge battle with Tyron Smith. He was getting beaten, kept doing the same move, then thought maybe this isn't working against one of the best, changed it up and actually seemed to work for him. So going against Tyron, I think that's really going to put him against the best he can and bring the best out in him. And especially once Tank gets back on the field, hopefully we'll see a bit more.
Yes. Well, probably a good point now is to move on. We're going to have a look at some position battles. So I didn't, want to take the thunder away from Brian with the defensive backs, with how Heath and Woods have been rocking up this week by the sounds of it. So take us through your DB battle. What are we looking at?
Yeah, DBs have been it's been hit and miss with some of the DBs. I think that the one clip that all got us very excited in the last 48 hours was the hit Jordan Lewis put on Darius Jackson.
Yes.
Massive.
But the amazing thing was Jackson had already made a first down when Lewis hit him, So, it's great to see him lay the wood like that, and I'm delighted for Lewis that he did it, but the first down was already got. But on the other side of that, you then have, Woods made an interception. Jeff Heath made a circus interception. So the DBs are getting their fair share of interceptions in there. They're not having it all. The wide receivers, tight ends are not having it all their own way. But I mean, it's kind of going back to what Joe was saying about Tyron and Robert Quinn going at it. It's a case of iron sharpens iron, and I'm delighted to see it. I want to see both sides of the team performing and giving as good as they're getting, and that seems to be what's happening this week.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, an interesting battle with Zeke out the picture is the running backs. Obviously, we brought Morris in, and also at tight end we've added in a certain 82 to the mix. But I think Jarwin's 82. You might have to get out your roster guide for that to check out who he is. But what do you reckon, Rich? How's it shaping up at running back and tight end?
Running backs are looking pretty good. It's pretty early on, but it's looking good. Both Tony Pollard and Mike Weber have apparently run pretty well. Admittedly, we're only one. They've just had another one. One padded practice in. But they're looking pretty good. Obviously, they've added Alfred Morris as well for some seniority and some competition as well. Everything that was made of that with the Zeke situation as well. But obviously, Will McClay coming out quite bluntly and quite tired, it sounded like, in an interview, and saying, look, we have 5 running backs in this camp and most teams out there have 6. This is now our 6th back. And they were looking at Alfred Morris. They kind of pulled the trigger early on him because the Saints were sniffing around on Monday night. So that was pretty much it. Aside from that, Pollard's been used in a lot of different ways. He's lined up obviously quite normally, but he's been shifted around a lot. He's done a lot of shifting. He's been lined up quite far out with the wide receivers. And he's had a very nice misdirection screen that came on. They managed to get pretty well from a lot of that. Obviously, it's been seen due to Kellen Moore's influence. Aside from that, things looking pretty good. The one thing is he really sucked on a block against Leighton. Dak pulled him up to block, and he didn't kind of play very well. He didn't bend his knees enough and put enough of a hit on, and Leighton just plowed right through him, really. But that's the sort of thing you can And I mean, that's the difference between like your Zeke Elliott and your Tony Pollard. Really, is usually 9 times out of 10 is the blocking side of things with running backs more than the catching. But that's the sort of thing he can learn. I mean, he is a rookie. So aside from that, it's good. Tight ends, Witten and Jarwin both looking very good. Very quick, very agile, catching balls well. Route running is down to a point. Witten doesn't seem to have missed a step at all in terms of his route running. If anything, he's probably gained it. He's looking a lot quicker, a lot fresher. That year out has definitely seemed to have done him the world of good, because his previous season he looked a bit lumbering when he was trying to get his run on, but now he's looking pretty sprightly. Jarwin's been a massive nuisance as well. I don't know if you saw, but John Vare Johnson had a really, really nice catch. He burnt one of the defenders quite badly, where he was running and he sold an in route and then switched out and got quite a lot of separation. And I believe he pretty much took it to the house then. And part of that is because of Jarwin, because Jarwin was running the opposite, and it caused the defender to sort of stop for a second, hesitate a bit, and that enabled John Vare to get the separation in part that he did. It certainly helped him. I think he probably would have got enough anyway to make the catch, but obviously it certainly helped. But the fact that Jarwin's doing that as well, people know they need to account for him after last season, is a very, very good sign. So I'm really, really, really hoping he's going to show up big again this year, because Witten, although he's back now and he's looking good, he isn't going to be around forever. And the only person we've really got behind him is Jarwin that's any semblance of battle tested.
Do you think we could see Jarwin as tight end 1?
Pardon?
Do you think we could see Jarwin as tight end number 1?
Maybe. I mean, it depends how they want to use Witten, really. I mean, you think of everything as, are they going to use him as tight end 1? Are they going to start him? Are they going to just have him for like third downs or long down situations and red zone situations, and specific situations in games like towards the end of halves and all the rest of it? Are they just going to split the snaps 50-50? I mean, there's potential for it. They might well play it that way. It depends entirely on how he transitions, because although he's looking good now, it's the first couple of practices in, and we've had one padded practice, and he needs to carry on that transition, as do everyone else. The potential's there, though. Obviously, he played well last season before the injury. He was definitely getting better with every game. So potentially, maybe we'll have to wait and see.
Is Project Rico done and dusted?
Oh, yeah.
So, yes.
I'm all in agreement on that one.
I don't think we've even seen Rico being mentioned in the OTAs at all, have we?
No.
I heard him mentioned today, and it wasn't in a very good way. I'm struggling to remember exactly what happened, but
wasn't the pass bounced out of his hands?
Yeah, he bobbled the pass, I think.
Was that?
So probably the one I'm most interested in is the D-line battle. I think we've got some interesting matchups on there. People fighting for their positions. What do you reckon, Joe?
Yeah, we've got a really, really deep kind of roster on that. I mean, just quickly looking at some of the names, you've got Chris Covington, Daniel Ross, Hill, Collins, Woods, Armstrong. Then you've got Tank, Quinn, Gregory, Jelks, Joe Jackson. There's just too many to kind of mention. So yeah, they're all kind of hungry, I think, for their 15 minutes of fame, so to speak. One name that might not be regular with some Cowboys fans is Daniel Wise, undrafted free agent out of the University of Kansas. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, it's Kansas.
D tackle. We had a 4th round grade on him. Obviously, got him as a free agent. He's definitely taken the most out of his reps, so it'd be interesting to see if he gets a few more with some of the 2s or even the 1s. Woods and Connor Williams, that has been a huge battle, a war, so to speak, and Woods has come out top. The one word I put in my notes was bullied. Woods absolutely bullied Williams over and over and over again. So hopefully we can see Williams come back and he's beefed up over the summer. Let's hope that he can get that action in.
Yeah.
And then my other thing I was going to say, and it's probably a question back to you guys, and you're probably going to laugh when I say the player, but what do we think about Crawford getting cut for the money that he'll save us with such a kind of deep roster. I mean, he'll save us about 7 million for all these players. And we've got quite a few. He's more of a rotation. He's definitely, I wouldn't say a starter at the moment with some of those names, but he's in and around the starter kind of. Do we think we could?
For me, no,
Yeah.
because I just think he's the position flex, which is Marinette's dream.
Flex.
We all love a bit of position flex, indeed, Brian. And I think has he been captain previously, or he's certainly one of the senior figures in the team. I still think he'll be important to us. For me, we keep him even with the money he's taking off the cap.
Yeah,
I don't even think we really need it though, because there's a fair amount of cap space already. The team has a fair amount, don't we, Brian? Yeah, there's a fair amount of space there. I don't really see you cutting, and you see similar comments about Sean Lee as well, and I get it. I really do. People getting frustrated with the injuries, injured like Lauren says, it's a regular thing. Usually his knee, it's a recurrent thing, but you only really cut someone like that, of that caliber, if you need the money. I mean, if they needed the money to get something else done, then fair enough. But they don't need to. So why get rid of someone of that level of seniority when you have, like we've said, already the depth on this defensive line? How many young guys are in there that are really hungry? Whilst it's good and there's people to take his place, you also need the vets to help bring those guys on. And if you take him out, who is the next most veteran person? I mean, is it Tank?
I think it would be,
Probably Quinn.
So,
Yeah.
Quinn, actually, in terms of total seniority, yes. Well, sorry, it'd be Quinn. With the team, I think it would probably be Tank.
Yeah.
It would be Tank, yeah.
And he's been, the offseason, he's had getting his deal done. He's not as much of a company man as like Tyrone is, Sean Lee are. Like you said, Sean Lee, he flew down to Texas to fly back.
Yeah.
He is he epitomizes the company man. He is there. He is the team through and through. You need those kinds of people on your team. And everyone is loving the fact that we brought Witten back. That's one of the reasons people are loving it, because you get that aspect. But why would you get rid of that with someone else on the other side of the ball? It doesn't really make sense to me, but that's me.
It's a good question though, and it leads us to, we had a good mailbag question along those lines from Ken Hughes asking, who do we think out of the veterans that could possibly be on the bubble this year, at risk of being cut? I mean, obviously Rico, we're all ready to put Rico in the trash.
Low hanging fruit.
Taco's in there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taco as well, definitely.
Other than that, it's difficult really. There's not anyone that I'd be happy with cutting. No, not that I could say Taco would be the only standout at the moment. I think we'd have to see a bit more of camp really and see how the other players perform before I'd want to kind of mention or comment on that with some of the others.
It depends how many wide receivers they want to carry as well.
I mean, could Tavon Austin, could he be at risk?
And that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Maybe. Depends.
We brought in Cobb. We've got a lot of guys that have been on the practice roster that we've picked up previously that the Cowboys apparently like. You've got the likes of Cedric Wilson and co. Austin's a possible.
Yeah. For them to cut Austin, they'd have to have someone. They'd have to be in that situation where they're keeping an extra player in a position that they don't need, but they really, really, really like that person.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, we're just gonna have to wait and see. It depends how many defensive linemen we want to keep. Depends what happens on the O line as well. Depends how wide receiver core. We don't know if these running backs like Tony Pollard, if he's going to come out and be really good catching the ball, in which case he sort of takes away some of the spread stuff that Tavon potentially does, because we've got a lot of speed from the other wide receivers as well. A lot of these other guys coming through. And now things finally clicking between Dak and who. I'm not going to say because I don't want to jinx it, but it's a potential. It depends how things go, but there's potential there for things to maybe go wrong for Tavon Austin, which I wouldn't like to see. I'd like to think they'd keep him at least another year.
Yeah,
but I think there's potential there. And shout out to him as well, the other Taff. Love it. I got to do it. He's Welsh. I got to give him a shout out.
So good question there, Ken. Thank you for that. Probably a good one to wrap up with the week. Who are the players, take one on offense and one on defense, that you really feel we can't afford to lose this season if we want to get to the Super Bowl? I mean, let's eradicate Dak from that, because I think if you want to win a Super Bowl, you need your quarterback, unless you're Nick Foles, obviously. But who can we not afford to see go down injured at all on the offense and defense?
For me, Amari, it's got to be Amari. The difference he made when he come into Dak. I mean, the wide receiver by committee experiment failed miserably. We can all admit that. He come in, you could see how comfortable Dak was, knowing that he could throw it down there, and Amari's route running was near on perfect. So if he goes down, that is when I would start to panic, because then I think we're then going back to a bit of that wide receiver by committee. I'm hoping Gallup steps up this season as a bit more on the other side, but yeah, that would worry me if he went down on the offense side.
Anyone on defense? Rich, Brian?
On defense, I can't think of someone straight away, but for me on offense, it's Tyron Smith. I mean, God forgive me if we have to watch a Chaz Green type incident again. I was watching the All or Nothing over the weekend, and it went through that Atlanta Falcons game, and I was grimacing. So I mean, if we lose Tyrone for any games, I don't know who goes out to left tackle. Is it Connor Williams that goes out there? And they were saying, like the reason they called him as a guard was his arms are too short. So I don't know. On defense, if we lose either Van Der Esch or Jalen at linebacker, we're paper thin there. Like, I mean, Sean Lee, we don't know where he's going to fit in. But after those three players, like we're paper thin at linebacker.
Yeah.
So I'd say those two would be the guys for me on defense.
I'd probably have to go. I'm going to go a bit different. I'm going to shift down the line. I'm going to say Zach Martin. He very, very rarely misses any time, and if he goes, that will be very demoralizing. As well as just missing out the center. I mean, if you touch wood, Travis is back, but if he's not, and we're already having to shore up with someone else, if you then lose him as well, Zeke has got no chance of having big holes to get to the second level straight away and just be away and break for the house on any play. You're having to then rely on potentially using a lot more play action and having him out and passing the ball a lot more just to get him past some people, because he can't go through because the gaps aren't there. Defensive side of the ball, I was going to say same with linebackers, but I'm going to go for the low-hanging fruit and say Tank. From his side, things are looking very good from the other side, potentially. With Robert Quinn, Jalen Jelks is looking very good from that side so far, even though it's early. But we don't know what's happening with Randy Gregory. I think, I've said before, I think he's going to play this season. I really do. But when that happens, I don't know. And if Tank goes down, that is a big, big loss.
Yeah, agreed. So, everyone, Hail Marys, cross yourself. You don't want any injuries. Hopefully. I mean, obviously, they all happen at this time of year for all teams, but nothing too serious. Please, God, because we want to get to the Super Bowl.
Please. Which veteran do you guys think has the biggest impact? Which returning veteran has the biggest impact on the offense this year? Do you think it's going to be Witten or Frederick?
Frederick.
Straight up, yeah.
I just want to see that trio back again with Martin, Smith, and Frederick. That they were our team. That was, we could do anything with them at one point.
Yeah. But then don't forget that pretty lethal wide route that Jason Witten runs. I mean, how many times has he won us a game or kept the game going? That is a big thing, obviously, that he's coming back. When you think about it and you weigh him up, I'm like, yeah, I would probably go Frederick as well. But it's just one of those situations I think it's quite fun to sort of sit down and weigh up, and you're like, actually, when you look how much damage he can actually do in a very, very short space of time, it's like, actually, maybe go with him, maybe. Well, one other thing I missed earlier, I just wanted to say one thing that I have noticed that a lot of people have noticed, and I put this on Twitter the other day, is Dak's footwork has massively improved, which was amazing to see. He's not bouncing around umpteen times. He's going back, taking a couple of steps back. He's setting, he's bouncing a little bit, but he's not bouncing up and down 5, 6, 7 times, checking around. He's going back, couple set, throw off the back foot, and he's looking pretty good. And his deep balls now as well are looking really damn good. And I know it's only 7-on-7 or a few compete sessions, but they're looking pretty good. I know it's easy to flash with quarterback and wide receivers early on, but it's looking pretty smooth. So hopefully that transitions through, because that will be a big, big plus to this offense, especially with Witten back on top of the running game, assuming Zeke plays, which
I think another plus is there's really good reports coming out about Kellen Moore. The young players seem to absolutely love him. He seems to be pushing Dak a bit more to throw that deeper ball. And from the clips that we're seeing, you can see that Dak does have that accuracy. I mean, thrown into the tiny nets there, he's got it. And from all reports, it's Moore's going out there before the snaps, after the snaps, chatting to his players. He seems really invested in the team, and they're saying it's a breath of fresh air for them. So that's another kind of thing I'm really excited to see as camp goes on, to see how differently, if Kellen Moore brings that kind of college approach to the offense, and see what we get there.
I read today that Jerry said, he really wanted to get himself a Sean McVay, and he believes he's got that in Kellen Moore. Now, proof will be in the pudding on it, but if he has, then happy days.
He quizzed in, but Kitna's having a big impact. I think it was the other day he said something about, he was telling all the QBs, not just Dak, that you can't be afraid to let the ball rip. You need to stop worrying about protecting it so much, because a lot of the great guys previously have been we all know they've been absolute gunslingers, and Tony Romo, as much as people love him, and Brett Favre and all the rest of them. I mean, Brett Favre leads the league, I think, in interceptions at QB, and look how good he was. I mean, I know the league's changed slightly, and one of the things I like about Dak is that he protects the ball, but he does need to take more chances and not be so scared to throw it up. He does need to have that kind of faith in his wide receivers, which maybe that's a bit unfair to him. Maybe that he's not had that faith for good reason, aside from maybe Cole Beasley and Jason Witten, which is probably why they've been two of his main targets in previous seasons. But no, that's a very good point. But everyone seems to be having a lot more fun with Kellen around.
I think with Dak's shown, hasn't he? He's so much better when he's playing with that more instinctively, and just being allowed to go out there and feel the game. How much more improved is he? When we've got 4 minutes left on the clock and we need however many yards. That's when he is at his best.
Yeah, he showed that in his rookie season. The amount of times he went out and won a game just off his back, just being instinctive, and just coverage as ever, and it was like balls going up, and it was done. And it was really, really impressive. And the one thing I really miss from his first season is, I don't know what it was, but when he used to throw the ball, especially when he motioned out and he was pushed out of the pocket, he used to jump up and just contort and twist his body in the air and then throw the ball. And you don't see, or I haven't seen that as much in year 2 and 3. And I really want to see that. Don't get me wrong, I want to see his pocket passing technique needs to improve massively, and it looks like it is now. It looks like Kitna's getting him on that. But I also want to see a bit more gunslingery, motiony kind of Dak that we saw in the first year, because he's got the instincts. That's why they made him starter in the first place. He can do it. I want to see, and it's just awesome to see just that jump, and just you go back and watch the film and it just looks sick. You just see him motion out, and it's just like just twists himself and the ball just fires down. It's like, oh, that's brilliant. Do that more. It's amazing.
Just a bit of a random thought on that. Do we think we need better competition behind Dak to push him to be his best? I mean, when he had Romo come back from injury, he played phenomenally. And do we think, that's one worry for me. If Dak goes out, I don't think either of our two backup quarterbacks.
No, good point. in fairness, last year, Cooper Rush? He played pretty well in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
There were actually some murmurs of people being quite impressed. Maybe we'll see the same this year. I mean, ultimately, when Tony Romo went down, we were in the same sort of situation. We were like, who the hell? We were like, okay, Kellen Moore. Like, no offense, but that's a big step down. And then look what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's lightning won't strike twice like that. But it's, maybe not a bad idea, mate. Not a bad idea at all. Maybe, but then who do you bring in? Because there's no one really out there to bring in. You need to draft, and why waste a high draft pick when you have Dak? It's a catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I think a big thing that, and I think Laws, you called it last week, was you wanted to see how Dak performed in camp. Like, we all know Dak is an absolute gamer, but he never seems to light it up in camp. What I've seen over the weekend and the last couple of days, he's been lighting it up. You know, I think Kitna has got his footwork really good, and let's see how that improves over the rest of camp, and then let's see when he gets into game action. I'm not even concerned with how he does during the preseason. Don't care. I'd wrap him in cotton wool, get him into the first game of the season, and see how he goes. You know, like that's what I want to see with Dak. I think we've got to make a decision whether it's Mike White or Cooper Rush is our backup, and let them really fight it out over the 4 games preseason.
Yeah.
Are
we going to carry 3 quarterbacks again? Because for me, I don't. Personally, I think if you lose your number one, you lose Dak, then season whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not interested in carrying 3 quarterbacks. I know why they've done it previously, but it's a no from me. What about you guys?
No. Definitely want one.
Rick, look a bit more unsure.
I would like to, but I don't think it will happen. I think it will probably be Cooper Rush that is kept. Because the situation you get, if you do get in that situation, God, we don't. But if Dak is unable to play for a prolonged period of time, then you've then got your one quarterback. They're then in a situation of, well, now we've got to go out and get someone, which is kind of understandable. But all being well, as much as I'd like it for the safety aspect of it, I don't think they carry a third one. I think they carry 2, and they use that space somewhere else, be it on either of the lines or wide receiver or even running back. I think it gets used up somewhere else.
Yeah, same for me. Probably wide receiver, I would have thought, but
probably,
like I said, possibly running back, depending on how the Zeke thing goes, but definitely not 3 quarterbacks for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right, well, we have absolutely smashed the time here. So I'm sure Mike's going to have fun editing this down for us. We will be back again next week, so if you want to join, it'll be myself, Mike, and we have our very famous Scotsman, Paul Stewart, joining us on the show next week. So be sure to tune in. Get any of your mailbag questions in. We want to hear from you what you think of the show. Like us, love us, whatever, let us know. And share. Hate us even, I suppose, if you have to.
Okay.
There's a few Eagles fans who
hate us. Yeah. But to be fair, if you've made it this far through, you're still watching and you hate us, then you're probably that Eagles fan. So yeah, join us next week, and we look forward to catching up with you guys across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're there. See you later.
Adios.
Bye-bye.